are going to be working on our modular chatbot project again. So description right there. And let me bring it up so we can talk about what it is we're trying to do. I don't remember what the exact state of the program was at the end of our last stream, but I'm going to find out. I know I committed the code that we were working on at the end of the last stream. I had to end it and wrap it up because I was out of time, but I know we stopped at some point, and I want to see exactly how far we got in that. Okay, so let's talk about what it is we're building. So welcome, greetings everyone. We are going to be getting started here on our chatbot. So yes, I know chatbots, everybody makes one. We're doing a slightly different take on it. Our plan is not to build a chatbot for this channel. Our plan is to build a chatbot that is very extensible and can be extended both in C# as well as in other languages, JavaScript, Python, etc., whatever it is that you want to use. We're hoping to make it so that we can have adapters and hooks and everything so that the information coming out of the chatbot can be used by you or anyone else to essentially help your channel in some way, either being a repository of knowledge and responses for your viewers, or to add games, or any other kind of community activity. Obviously, if it gets used by other developers, awesome. If it gets used by the gamers on Twitch, cool. We don't really have we're not building it for one or the other. We want the programmers to be able to customize it themselves, but we want for anyone else to just be able to include any of the code that other developers have built into their bots. As such, we are making it open source so that we are not the only ones developing this. We want anyone that wants to contribute and add to this project to be able to. And that goes both for adding in plugins, or whether they actually want to help build the core structure of the application that will allow other people to mod it. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. It looks like it is somewhat running right now. The piece that I know is probably missing, so the task we're working on, so we originally wrote this bot, we just did a skeleton of a site so that people could see it, because we're going to be building this publicly in front of people, so I was like, let's show them what it looks like and kind of build some interest. Our next step was, hey, let's have it connect to a chat and actually do something and give some responses. So we built a basic command response system into it that we thought would be fairly extensible. Once we did that, we said, okay, let's take that and turn it into a plugin. So that's the step we're working on right now, is converting that into a plugin. It's mostly separated. If we look at our project, you'll see that we have a separate plugins folder that includes our simple commands module, plugin, whatever you want to call it. And if we take a look at our other projects, like this one, you'll see no references to it. And actually, I should pull up the UI. The UI has no project reference to that plugin anymore. It is gone. So what that means is that we're not actually loading that plugin until runtime. So that's what makes it a plugin instead of being just a part of the app. And yes, we are going to make even the core functionality of our application be plugins. So basic command response, it's going to be a plugin. And part of the reason why is if someone wants to build a better plugin system, or a better simple command response piece than what we're going to build, awesome, go build it. If someone wants to modify the one that we use in some way, they can, without having to, essentially swap out their whole application. So they don't have to fork the whole app to just customize that plugin. They could just fork that plugin, make their changes to it, and we've essentially made it much simpler for people to keep up with that. Okay, let's have a look at the actual loading process. We're going to debug into this. So I'm going to go ahead and debug. I did an F10 debug, so it should just step in as soon as we get to our code. And let's step on through. So there is the beginning of the app, which we go ahead and create. Where do I want to break? At the initialization of plugins, I think. Initialize plugins, yeah. let's jump to that point, and let's figure out what step is left to be done. Okay, so that should have initialized the plugins. Let's restart. I want to see where that actually stopped. I meant to step into that one, not step over that one. Okay. Let's go ahead and step in. So this should get us our plugin initialization class, which is right here. It's going to read the plugin folder. It's going to find two folders in there, Hello World and Simple Commands. It is then going to match that with the data that it finds in okay. So because we had the duplicates in there, that's what it's finding. Let's step in here for a second. I want to see if it'll let me clear up some data. Plugins, set plugins. Got it. It's when that loaded. Let's go take a look. I want to clear up some data. So we're gonna jump over into the plugins collection. When this gets loaded, we have access to the data store right there. Let's restart. I actually think I'm just going to nuke that whole table because we can redo it. Okay, so data store dot. Oh, I don't have a. Okay, that's fine. I don't have a delete. We'll jump to here. Okay. The collection is that. Let's just delete all. Evaluation requires a thread to run temporarily. Sound is funny. Thanks for the heads up, Fuel Snable. I wonder why sound is funny. Is it any better? Is anyone else getting sound issues or just Fuel Snable? Could be the noise cancellation being weird. If there's a decent amount of noise in the background, it gets wonky. Okay. Alright, I'll have to check into that and see what's going on. Sounds fine to you? Thanks, Darren. Yeah. Okay, cool. Might just be a little bit different, but that's fine. Okay, so that should have... So, did it actually clear out the collection? Query? Do I really have to do this over in the watch? Okay, thing. Yeah, you told me to do it here. There you go. Okay. It supposedly deleted that. Let's see if it really did. How many items? None. Okay, looks like it deleted, so awesome. Yeah, it could be. So it was possible that I had one of my tabs open, or something like that, but it doesn't look like I do. I wanted to check and make sure, because obviously if I have one open, then you're going to get that. So, okay, let's go ahead and step on into here. Okay, so that should have completed that. I want to let it load real fast just because I want to make sure that it actually... I'm not sure we should hit that twice. That has me worried. Let's have a look. Okay, good. So we have these... oh, status missing. I wonder why status is missing. Let's run it again and find out. Is it still going to be missing? Okay, we come in here, we grab the collection, we finish initializing. Why does it come to grab the collection again? It's almost like it gets a new set. Like it's not holding the same set. I wonder if we initialize that transient instead of... ooh! It created another one. There's an extra hello world. We have something weird. Somehow it didn't detect that one was already there and it created a new one. What happens if we start it again? Does it create another one? If so, then we have an interesting bug that we need to track down, and we can get a nice unit test around that to prevent a regression on here. Let's find out what it's doing. No, okay, so we only got the extra one time. Okay. When we go to... need that open. When we initialize the plugin, what we should be doing is looking to see which records are there and matching them. So I want to breakpoint here, and we're going to step in and take a look at how these match together to see if we can figure out what it's doing. So find matched plugins takes in a set of plugin folders. So these are the folders it found. I see Hello World and Simple Commands. And then it looks at this set, which it says there are 3 of. That is Hello World and Hello World. Does one of them have like weird spacing or something? No. And then we match them based on the location and the folder, which should have matched. Okay. So the first time through, this should have matched them. We should have ended up with 2. And then inside of create records for new ones, we should have passed in... We said for each one, plugin folders except for the matched locations. So we're saying look at the plugin folders that we found, the ones that are in the file system, and remove any from that set where the location is already in one of our other ones, which I would think would have cleared out any, and we wouldn't have ended up with an extra. Unless something was wrong with one of the collections when we got to this point. Let's make this a variable called call this new folders. Let's drop a breakpoint here, and then inside of the data store call right here, oops, yeah, let's stop it and start it over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out the data again, and we're going to look to see if this, whoops, we're going to look to see if this happens again. Come on, come on, Visual Studio, let's go. You wouldn't let me run it because you knew there was an error. It's going to take you this long to show me what the error is. Okay, now you claim no error. output from the build. Looks totally successful. Visual Studio, you're doing fantastic today. Nothing weird at all going on here. Totally normal program with no bugs at all. Definitely not any issues. Do. That's true, it can be, and I don't want it to on those ones. It claims no errors. Why will it not start then? Alright, let's have a look at what code I changed recently. This is literally the only code. Plugin initialization. That looks totally valid. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to kill Visual Studio and start Visual Studio again. Because that's all I got on that one. I'll wait, Visual Studio. No, I wasn't in the middle of the stream. No, it's fine. Take your time. Take your time. Yeah, go ahead and don't debug. That's fine. Hey, everyone. Greetings. Welcome. We're just waiting on Visual Studio. Nothing big. Anyone who has ever worked with Visual Studio knows that you're going to wait on Visual Studio. You are not the one in charge, it is. Okay. Yeah, no kidding. Oh man. Yes, Palman, I do have Writer installed, and I could go switch to it. I could also just use VS Code, not related to this because it won't speed this up. But did everybody see the NVIDIA announced new generation, with the 3070, the 3080, and the 3090? Oh man, those look nice. I can't wait to see what cool tech they actually got us with those. Like, not speaking from like a what kind of gaming? Yeah, exactly the 3000 series cards from NVIDIA. They I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of stuff they came up with for like chroma keying out green screens or even non-green screen backgrounds. I've heard that they've added a whole bunch of stuff with that. Noise cancellation bits, because there's amazing things that you can do with GPUs that you can't really do with CPUs, that NVIDIA has been like building capabilities for on their cards. So like it's going to be some crazy stuff. The new line, the 3000s, like they're actually bringing prices back down, which is good because video card prices had gone way up in a bad way. So I'm glad to see that NVIDIA is being reasonable and bringing the prices back down. And then the other thing on that one is because they actually made some significant changes to how these work. If the specs that they've been telling us are even like close to what they say they are, this is going to be a huge jump forward for video cards. It's going to be fantastic. So we'll see how it goes. I think I gave Visual Studio enough time. Let's go ahead and see if it'll let me run it now. We restarted. My guess is that it got some kind of kink. Yeah, see, it runs fine. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this code. This code is fine. I'm guessing Visual Studio just got caught up in something and wouldn't let go of it. Okay, so this should be a collection that contains a bunch of entities in it. Oh, that's all those pieces. Okay. So if I take a look at this and put this in the watch window, that should give me back a set of... Why doesn't it want to do that? Yeah, that's why I'm clicking it over here in the watch window. Delete all. Yeah, I'm just trying to delete the plugin info here. Come on, dude. Unable to evaluate the expression because the code is optimized or a native frame is on top of the call stack. Okay, now what's it trying to do? Which collection is this? That's the credentials. Okay, that's fine. You're going to do an AMD CPU, and yeah, so I will say the Intel CPUs have been lagging behind, but man, NVIDIA is running away with with this competition right now. So Intel had the lead for a while, but they have since lost it. But NVIDIA in graphics cards, oh boy. It's a great work out of them right now. It's always one of those weird things. There's like this balancing act where for like the majority of people, unless you specifically need one or the other, at any given time, there's usually one choice that is the better one. Like even despite our preferences, because I used to run a lot of AMDs for a while, and then I was like, okay, well now I need to switch, and then I switch back, and so I'll admit it, I don't have loyalty to hardware. I'm gonna pick whoever's currently doing the better stuff. So which is good because it forces them all to actually compete. So I thought they announced that those cards were going to be available in October, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay. 3. All right. Let's try and delete, and it successfully deleted. Nice. Okay, so if it was able to delete, then we should be able to continue on. And I want to step and watch what happens this time, because I want to figure out how this occurs. Oh, you getting a new PC. I was going to say, like, no, I think they said October. And yes, I will say that I'm not sure when I'm going to do my upgrade. I'm at about the refresh cycle for my PC. It's been so I buy a computer with the plan being that a couple of years in it, I'm going to give it some kind of an upgrade, which I've already done, and it's been years since that. And so now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I need to do an upgrade. And I'm like, wanted to do it now, but NVIDIA's announcement makes me want to delay just a little bit so I can get one of those cards in. I always like to try and get the points where some leap has just happened, because those tend to be the best times. The ones where you're least likely to want to replace sooner is because you got on just the right side of an advancement. Okay. So that creates those. So it's initializing the menus here. That's fine. So now we go to initialize the plugins. When we initialize these, we come in here, we're going to step in this. So this is the message handler, which is fine. This is the utilities, which is going to contain all of the messaging pieces. We should have a handler and a sender. The handler is... Are the handler and the sender the same? So I want to do a quick check here. Message handler equals message sender. I think I'm going to cast them both as objects, which sounds weird, but the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that it doesn't get a type evaluation in there. Okay, that's interesting. So, is Twitch bot? Oh, what type is Twitch bot? Chatterbot infrastructure Twitch. Which I think I don't have access to that type right now. But it should dumb it. Ooh, message handler is not one. But is message sender one? Maybe I left that out there. Okay, so message sender is the chatbot. Message handler must not be. I must have had those separated. Yeah, I guess I could just get type on it. But the problem is, what am I going to get if I get type on this? Is it going to get me the interface that it is right now on the variable, or is it going to get me the type that it is? No, it did get it. Yeah, it got me back that it was a message handler from Chatterbot Twitch. I must have created message handler. I might have been in the process of deleting that? Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where I left things. So my intention is to have some interfaces around an object that like is the bot piece, and I might make that a wrapper so that we can restrict the control that the plugins have, because we want to give the users a bunch of access to do things, but what we want to restrict is make it so that the plugins are not interfering with each other directly. So we want to have pathways of communication between the plugins, but we don't want that to be, you know, through just manipulation of what's going on. So we might have ways of like piping or passing a message that got, you know, essentially modifying a message so that, you know, more than one plugin can manipulate it. So we'll see on that. Okay, so we call initialize, and inside of here, we read the folders, which should have gotten back 2. We try to find the matched ones, and it found none because we deleted the ones out of the database. Now we're saying create records for the new ones. It should have 2 in here. Results view of hello world and simple commands. So it should create these. And it should create that one. And let me just make sure. Okay, so it got created with status new. That's correct. That's what we want. And then in here, flag missing plugins. Oh, that's why they got flagged as missing. I need to do this step before I create the new ones. That's silly. Yeah, okay, so these are out of order. So I'm actually just going to skip that, because there are no missing ones, but I did this code out of order. So I need to do, we'll do a test for this just because that totally is a problem. Yeah, you didn't go to the office tonight, so you'll do mental coding here while asking, yes, please make suggestions, Paman. You want to sync 2 databases? Yeah, so there are ways of doing replication, Anas. not that we're going to dive into on this stream, but yes, there are ways of replicating databases, even if they are like I assume by online and off, like one being online and one being offline, you mean one local and one that is out on the internet somewhere. And yes, there are ways of doing that. Okay, so that's one test that we need to create. Let's make a note of that. So notepad. New plugins being flagged as missing. Okay. And then start any enabled plugins, which there should be 0. And let's go ahead and run this and see what we get as our end result in the application. So we click on the plugins view. Okay, there are 2 and they're both listed as new. That is correct. That's what we want to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop this code, and we're going to start this again because I want to see how this actually happens. Okay, so plugin folders. It has 2. Let's go ahead and step in and see if it's the matching that's weird. Matching has found 3. Why did we store 3 in the database? It's the database. There's something with when we save these to the database. Huh. Well, that's an interesting one. How in the... It only showed 2. Huh. Well, we're going to have to track that down. Okay. Let's go ahead and stop it for a second. We already have 3. That's crazy. Okay. Let's go ahead and get some of these cases tested. So first off, I want to mess with plugin initialization. So where does this live? Chatterbot domain. That's fine. We can look at that to begin with. So domain, plugins. Yep. Plugin initialization should. Here we go. Okay. So if we're gonna say initialize, we have got to have a test for this. Creates plugin info given adds plugin info is missing given database data and empty folder. Yep. Include plugins. So returns values. Include plugins given both. Okay, so we want the reverse of this. We need a adds plugin info as new, given empty database and new folder. Okay, so we need to reverse this, so we don't have any plugin info, so this one's empty. This one is a list that contains the new folder. Okay, so here's the new folder. This one's empty, so let's go ahead and, whoops. We'll switch that back so there's no initializer. So this is going to be the string that we save. So that's the folder name. We don't need that. Plugins should contain instead of a specific one, it should contain Actually, I think I'm going to say contain single. A single one where x location equals folder. And then the single, actually I could just single that and say the location. So we'll just do single here. So we already confirmed that it was a single one, so then we're going to say single and say not location should be not empty, should be folder. And then in this one we're going to say the status should be new. So this is the one that I think is going to fail right now until I fix that. So let's go ahead and run this test and see what is going to happen. Is there a difference between new folder or an empty folder? So right now, not technically, Jonathan, though what we are going to do is look in the folder for a specific metadata file, and if we find it there, we're going to use that to load the correct information for what type of plugin it is and its details. And if that's not there, then we're going to mark it as unknown and require that the user give us that information, and we will create the missing metadata file. So if someone includes a plugin from another library, the plan is that we'll indicate that as such, and they'll add all the required attributes. And then once it's in there, we'll save that into that folder where they put the plugin. However, if we find it there already, we should be able to just read it and load it, and that is going to be our metadata file. So the instructions will basically be, here's how you do this. House Bazook, welcome. Wow, 15 months. Welcome to the stream today, and thank you for continuing to be an integral member of our community. Unable to resolve the service for type iMessage sender while attempting to activate plugin utilities. Set up the services, add a singleton for that. Okay, so I'm actually kind of shocked that I did it this way. But that's fine. Which type was it? Message handler or sender? Whoops. Wrong unit test. Sender. That should be the Twitch bot. Okay, that's fine. I'm not sure why I did it this way. Why did I do it this way? Because I could just wire it up. Right? Oh, because they're internal right now. That's why. Okay, that's fine. So I want to add a singleton for iMessage sender. And I want it to be a mock of this object. Our mock sender equals a new mock of iMessage sender, and then this is going to be mock sender object. Which I guess since I made it of that type, I can remove that and it should be fine. And then now will it run? Let's just run all these tests. Code Blashan, greetings, welcome. Make the test project a friend of the class library. Yes, I absolutely could, Jonathan. I probably should. It'd make testing that a lot easier. Okay, so parameter list. So this didn't get initialized. So we need to mock the call to get entities of this type so that that actually happens. So let's take a look at the data store mock right here. And am I always calling initialize in this code? Is that basically like what we're testing? It is. So set return values. Do we do that at the beginning of each one of these? We do, it seems. A get entities of plugin info seems to be what we're calling. We pass it back. It is verifiable. So that should happen at the beginning of each of these. Failed then. Plugin set value cannot be null. Data store get entities plugin info. Yeah, it seems like this is what's failing, but that doesn't make sense. Let's debug one of these tests and just see what's happening. Because it looks like test didn't run. What? Lies. Why won't you run? But you ran without debugging? It won't attach the debugger? It won't attach the debugger. That little troll won't attach the debugger. Why won't you attach the debugger? Okay, we'll try it this way. Can Visual Studio run it, since ReSharper doesn't seem to want to? Looks like it will. Okay, thanks, ReSharper. Okay, so that's our mock data store. This call should return back the data. Let's just find out what happens when we call it. Comes back with null. So let's go up the call stack to here. Oh, it happens here now. Of course it does. Of course it does. So I can't initialize it until we get down there. Because that's when it's actually going to happen. Okay. That's totally fine. So these are no longer read-only. Whoops, not the data store. The plugin init and the plugin set cannot be read-only because we have to modify them there. Yeah, yeah, Vomit. I'm going to switch over to Notepad. Yes. Oh, is it Programmer's Day? Nice. There you go. Because programmers needed a holiday, because clearly, clearly that was the issue. We all definitely needed that. Okay, so if I put this up here, I guess I could set up the return values here, but then we'd need to define them there. Miser, thanks very much for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. So, looking at this, I think I want to change how our return values get set, because I think that's the way we're going to fix this. So I was not expecting this. Congratulations, we're going to be doing some changes to how our tests work. So here's the problem. Let me explain. The way the tests are written, we are running into a little bit of a problem because of the fact that at the beginning of each of the tests, I want to set what the different collection values are going to be. And when we do that, I have to pass in what the current status of plugin data is and what the current status of that folder is. And those are the two like variables for these tests that are going to make the changes. Like what the values are and things like that matters too, and how many there are in each one, if one is empty of the other. That stuff matters. We need to do that for each one of the tests. However, the problem is, because this happens as part of the initialization, we need to have those values in there because it's how they get loaded. We need those values before we call the test. If we don't like that, or we have to move all the code into the test, which I don't want to do. I guess we could make these. So we have two options. We can either take these values and make them local variables inside of each of the tests. Totally possible. We can absolutely do that. Or alternately, we can change it so that these returns don't return a static value, but instead have a function that is essentially grabbing from a property of this class, and we can have it return that instead. So we can go either way on that one. So, for example, this could be a property. So if I go up here, let's look at one of these tests. So let's make a quick property here, and we'll have a look at what this will look like. So this will be a list of plugin info. So we'll call this data records. And that'll just be a new empty list, and then the other one would be a list of string, and we'll talk about this, and we'll call that folders. And either so if we go this route, we end up with these. We have a holiday. Yeah, exactly. A bunch of people were asking if the programmer's day meant it was a day we could stop programming. And it's like, yeah, I could see that. Set return value could be an extension. Yes, Palm, and it absolutely can be. It can absolutely be an extension of that. But I'm not planning on doing that right now. So if we set data records like this, what we would end up doing is here we would do basically nothing. And we just call initialize and verify. In this one, we would need to do an add range on the folders. So this would be like folders.add range of the plugin names. Like that. In this one, we would do a folders.add folder. And we're going to do that after the declaration of the variable because, you know, we're not totally crazy. This one needs to add this to its collection. So this would be data records, and we'd say add that one. Is that not the right type? Oh, it's again, I put it out of order. There we go. So that should add that. Why does it not like the... Okay, I'm like, why do I still have a red squiggly there? Okay, and then this one looks like we are passing in one to each of them. Why do I have this as its own variable? Am I checking that? Is that why? Yeah, okay. That's fine. So I want to say for the data records, we want to add in plugin info, and then for the folders, I want to add in plugin name. There we go. Now, set return values isn't getting called at all, but it's about to be, and it's going to get called a little bit differently. So it is no longer going to pass in these. Instead, what it's going to do is this. It is going to have a function in here, because I'm pretty sure this is how the function works. Actually, do we have any variables? I don't think we do. So that means that this one's asking the data. This one's asking the data, so we will return back data records. So essentially we've said instead of returning a raw value that we set in advance, we're saying when you're asked to return, use this function to determine what to return. So it won't know what it's going to return until the moment it's going to call it. And that's the key, is that means that it's not going to determine it until it's in our test. And we're going to do the same thing down here for the folder names. And we're going to say folders. Now, the reason I wanted to do it this way, the alternate way was to just make the fields that we were not allowed to set to be null, if we make them into local fields instead of local variables instead of fields, then we don't have that problem of not allowing nulls. So keep in mind that in our project, in order to avoid null references, we have actually and generally changed the way that our code works. We have it set so that the nullable annotation context doesn't allow nulls. So that's one of the features in newer C#, and we are leveraging that here. This is only used in there, so that should absolutely be a local variable. That is a great suggestion. Thank you, tooling, for telling me that. Okay, so we need to do that here. Set return values. Okay, so that should set the return values to what we are looking for. Now let's try running these tests again. Let's see what happens. They call you null boy. Oh, that's awesome, Root Guy. How do you find working with nullable objects? Jonathan, do you mean objects that actually allow null, or do you mean the nullable annotation context that turns it off? Yes, see, now we got it. This is actually what we were looking for when we wrote these tests. We wanted 6 passing and 1 failing because we knew about a bug, and now we're at the state where we have what we want. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm actually going to delete our new test that we just wrote. So that's the failing one right here. And you might be saying, wait, you're just going to delete that? And the answer is yes. And the reason why is that I noticed that the tests were failing here, so I need this gone so that I can commit. So at this point, we have no failing tests, and I'm going to commit this code. So this is fixing those tests. Fixing the plugin init tests. Because that was not fixed a moment ago. I do not need that change in there, so we're going to commit that. Now that it's committed, now we can put that code back and actually see what we have here. Thanks, Code with Sean. No, I'm good. I don't need to stretch right now. I stretch when I need to, move around a little bit. How do you find, so other source control clients would let you exclude things from commits. I see Black Deep. I did exclude that from commits, and you're right. I actually usually I use a lot of different tools for dealing with Git. I frequently use the command line, and in fact, anything that's not committing with Git, I use the command line for. If it's not a commit, I'm on the command line pretty much, or like maybe a pull or a push or whatever. Like the simple stuff I'll do in a GUI. Anything beyond that, I'm in the command line. As far as which UI I like to use, it depends. So if I know there are going to be PRs that I'm dealing with, I actually like GitHub Desktop for that. I think it handles that case very well. For a lot of the work that I do with my clients, I use SourceTree. So I don't know how many people are familiar with that. I used to hate SourceTree because it actually made a whole bunch of changes to your local configuration back many years ago when someone was like, you should use SourceTree. It's really great. It's got all this stuff. And I installed it once and it was like, it has changed all my settings. This broke every other tool I was using. Like, why would anyone make this? And then I uninstalled it and then told everyone working for me that they were not allowed to use it because it would break everything else they did. so we didn't use it. And then I got word that they stopped doing that, and so I started using it again, and it's fantastic now. Great stuff. But there was a little while where some developer somewhere had a crazy idea that, you know, their way of doing things was the best. Okay, so let's look at our failing test. So it says we were expecting the status to be new, but what we found was missing, and that means that it gave us back the wrong status, and that's the bug that we discovered while trying to find a different bug, strangely enough. Okay, I think our other bug is actually related to saving. We thought it was related to initialization, but that's how we found this one, and also discovered that the other one was actually somewhere else, because we couldn't reproduce it here because it doesn't exist here. But that's what this test is going to help do for us, is hopefully make it so that when we fix this, it does not break the other one. Okay, so here's what I found. We create records for the new plugins, and then we flag the missing ones. The problem is this. We created the new records, and then there isn't a thing for them. So these steps are out of order. We should flag the ones that are missing first, and then create the new records. Otherwise, the new ones look like they're missing, and it's weird. So I think those steps were just out of order, but we're going to run all these tests to make sure that I didn't just break something else. That's what these tests are for. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a good one. Thanks for swinging by. Yeah, exactly, Root Guy. When you remove one of the tests and they all start passing, yeah, that's good. The C# public my object nullable cool. Yes. Oh yeah. So as Jonathan's pointing out, if you want to make a value actually be nullable, which you can, if you know that you're going to initialize it ahead of time, and so you're not worried about it because you're like, yeah, we're always going to initialize this. It's just the timing is not quite what the compiler would be looking for in order to guarantee that value is not going to be null. Then you can set a value nullable, is what Jonathan was talking about. And to do that, you use the same syntax that you would to create a value type as a nullable, in that you just add a question mark after it. And you can do that same kind of thing there. And yes, as Root Guy mentions, there are some ways you could lazy it or anything like that. So it's I don't want to initialize this yet types of steps. Okay, tests seem to be passing, so I think that fixes our issue. So essentially we just moved the ordering of that, and then this is not really a change, so I'm not even going to mention it. Okay, so what did we do here? This is fix new having missing status. Fix bug, new plugins having missing status. Let's say having status missing. There we go. I think that's clear. Okay, when and if possible, can you go on a tangent and explain lazy loading? It's almost like Sean knows that I like to go on tangents here. I love the implication of that. It's like, hey, if you're looking for a tangent to run off on today, do I have a suggestion for you? It would be great if you went on a tangent talking about lazy loading. So I will also ask, by lazy loading, do you mean actually doing the lazy loading, or do you just mean generally like capital L the type lazy, or do you mean just lazy loading in general? You mean the lazy of T. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, which tangent do you actually want me to go on? Because lazy loading itself is a concept that we could go on a tangent about. But yes, there's also the types. Yes. Yeah, so the type is just like an implementation that allows for easy lazy loading. But lazy loading itself is just a concept that you can just do. It's just, I'm not going to load this until later, until the lazy loading as a concept is essentially, I'm not actually going to do the work to load this until you ask me for it. So in that sense, an enumerable, for example, that is not containing a collection itself, that kind of an enumerable is actually a lazy loaded collection. You can kind of think of it that way, because it doesn't actually. It is entirely possible to write a lazy version of an enumerable, with the idea being that it does not actually calculate what the next value is until you ask for it, because it doesn't need to. If the underlying data in an enumerable is a collection, there's no calculation, you just step to the next entity. But an enumerable, since really all you're doing is asking for the next value, they can actually be lazy loaded and not calculated until that moment. So the neat thing, so that's actually what makes enumerables so cool. Yeah, you'll get me on a quick tangent. Here you go. Let's do a quick tangent. All right, everybody, we're going to do a quick tangent fun. We'll make this example. Here's what I'm talking about. In order to do this example, we'll do a quick tangent on we'll do an XUnit test in order to show it. Let's call it my example. There we go. Step 1, run the test to make sure everything's all wired together. Strap in, it's tangent time, gents! And everyone really, infinite enumerables. Yes, exactly. As Wheatlaw mentions, which we're going to do because it's going to be fun, an enumerable can be infinite. So be careful. All right, everyone, let's go. Let's do this. So, first off, funny things. We're going to go on a quick enumerable tangent because it's fun. Enumerable of, let's do an enumerable of ints. We'll call it numbers. Numbers equals a new list, and we'll just put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great set of numbers I did right there. So let's go ahead and do... Oh, is a console log going to show, or do I need to debug print this? We'll try debug printing. We'll for each over the numbers for now, because it'll be funny. And we'll do a debug print of, let's say, the number is number. Okay. Let's run this and see what we get as output. I'm not 100%. Not 100%. We need a tangent cam. Yes. Oh, and I do want to say, Nocta Brizo and Papa, welcome. Thanks for those follows. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you enjoy the crazy tangent we're about to go on. Okay, so debug print did not show. Did it come out in the debug? No, I don't see it there. Okay, so we don't see it there. All right, we'll try a console log, a console write line then. I thought that was going to show up, but why does it not want to do that? Oh, should use iTest output helper. Can you fix to that? Okay. I'm on board. Yeah, I'm on board. Thanks, ReSharper. Appreciate it. Or whomever that was that told me that. Yeah, I know they don't like console output. That's why I tried the debug print, and I thought it was going to send it out to the debugger, but it didn't want to, and so I was like, why don't you... But yeah, that totally works. iTest output helper. There we go. Okay, so there you can see the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. Siska, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Yeah, that'll be a longer one, Root Guy. Unit... it would mess everything up if you had multiple tests running at the same time. Yeah, that's true, Wheatlaw. That is true. Okay. yeah, I assume then because it gets a type passed in like this, that what that would mean is that it can keep track, like it's probably giving us one of these for each instance, and it's probably then got the information about what type, which test it was associated with, so that it can run the tests all in any order or in any way it likes. So, okay. So that's our set of numbers. This is non-lazy loading. This is explicit, it's a collection. Everybody gets that one. Totally fine. Let's change this. So I want to make this a method. So we are going to make a method that's called getNumbers. Right? Now we have getNumbers. Let's look at how this code works. I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to put a breakpoint here. For now, nothing weird is going to happen, I don't think. Assuming that this test actually runs, we'll find out. If it comes back inconclusive, then, okay, it's inconclusive. Of course it is. Okay, we'll show it this way then. I have another way to show it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change how this enumerable works. Prepare for brain to get fried. So for now, we're going to go simple. We're not going to do an infinite loop or anything like that. We're going to do up to... we'll go up to 5, and we'll just say yield return I plus 1. And we'll make this yield break, because I'm weird. Totally useless yield break. It does absolutely nothing, but I'm weird and I like it because I'm crazy. Okay, so when I do this, everything's going to look totally normal, and you're not going to understand that anything weird's going on. It's going to look totally normal. What is it? Well, true. Oh, geez. Yeah, see, Wheatlaw wanted me to go to a while true right away. I don't think I'm ready to do that one, because I want to be able to illustrate the example first. Okay, so everything looks totally normal, right? This looks like the same thing we had before. See, it's listing the numbers 1 through 5. This is totally normal. What are you talking about, Brendan? Nothing happened. No, totally okay. There's nothing weird going on. What could possibly make you think that something weird was going on? Almost like creating. Let's say I is. Let's see. Since I is something, it grammatically sounds so weird to a native English speaker. I'm not sure I can write that, so I'm gonna say the value of I is. I just can't write I is. It doesn't work. Sorry. Okay, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna run this code again, and let's see. Yes, I am. Yes. Let's have a look at the output. Huh. That's weird. So now hopefully everybody has realized the craziness that's going on right here, because I want you to take a look at this. This is the big reveal right here. So the first thing that happens if we look at this output, let me bring it up so we can see them both at the same time. So we can see the for loops, we can see this data. So we go into this for loop, right? And we want to grab the first item of the numbers collection. And what do? It goes in here, it runs this for loop, and it gets here, and it says the value of I is 0. And then we print out this number. And then somehow we're back inside of getNumbers to get the next item. And then we print it. You would think, if you're looking at this code normally, that what would happen is we would see the value of I is 0, the value of I is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you'd see all of these together. And then once you had the collection stored in this variable, you would see the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that is not what is happening, because it is actually sending us back into that code. Here, I'll show you in with a debugger. We'll get it to attach in this, because it will run here. We'll debug this real fast. Also, hi, Surly Dev, welcome. And Wheatlaw, welcome. I'm not sure I said welcome. You were talking already. Yeah, so craziness of enumerables. I think people will find it cool. Okay, so if we watch, numbers right now hasn't been created. There's nothing in this set. And wait a minute. Somehow, I tried to step in. I have not been in this code yet. I'm here on line 23, and I have not yet executed the code inside of this method, despite it getting called right there. It has not been, we've not gotten in there yet. TBD Gamer, welcome. Okay, so now we're going to try to grab the first item out of it. So we said in, wait a minute. Now we just came from this in keyword, the in keyword, into a method. And then you step through and you're like, okay, now I'm in the for loop, I is 0. Okay. It prints out that message to say the value of I is 0. And now watch. We return back from here we have not yet completed our for loop, assign that value to number, so number now has a value of 1, print it out, and then come back up here, and then from in, I go back into the method, iterate back into the for loop, and then I come back out again, and it's actually going to do this with stepping between my two for loops. Every time we get to the in, we go back to the enumerable to get the next one. Isn't that crazy? So if you actually watch this, like, it really is like into the method, back out of the method, into the method, back out of the method, into the method, to get each item as it goes through the enumerable. So that's what I mean when I say the enumerable is actually lazy loaded. So, okay, so let's talk about the code that Wheatlaw tried to have us start with. So I wanted to show this because you can sort of see it at the beginning. Wheatlaw is, so not exactly T-Lock. So what is actually going on here is, this is called an enumerable, in C#, and really all so usually we think of an enumerable as like a simple abstraction for a collection, but that is actually not what it is. All that enumerable defines is that whatever this object is has a getNext method to call. Now, what is happening behind the scenes, because I created this enumerable that is doing yield returns, essentially, and I don't want to get into the exact specifics because that gets too weird, so I'm sort of going to explain it in a way that's only slightly lying. Think of it this way. It's sort of, I'm pretty sure they're creating a type, and they're creating a special type for this, and it's got methods on it, and the idea is that the getNext is actually calling through back into this method each time. So that's how it's getting us to this code an extra time. Each way we go through is it's calling through to this and returning back, and it's maintaining the state. So when we do things like lambdas and other stuff like that in C#, they're often creating a state object. So there is actually an object that's getting created to encompass the state of what is going on. And that's all getting created for you, and you don't think about it and you don't see it. But if you actually look at what's going on with some of these, that's what's happening. With some of the more advanced stuff that you can do in C#. It's really creating objects for you that you never even thought you were creating that need to exist in order to let happen what you're doing. That's one of the reasons why when we talk about, if you can tell the compiler, hey, I'm not going to change this, hey, I'm not going to do these things, when we talk about like the optimizations that the compiler and the runtime can do for you when it has the information, that's the type of stuff that it can sort of optimize away. Is like, if it knows it's not going to change something, then it can tweak how it's creating these extra objects and stuff. Because C#'s doing that, there's a lot of places where it can do some extra optimizing. I'm not entirely talking about stack versus heap, but there is some aspect to that because we are mostly on the stack here. But yes, that is a related concept. Okay, so let's real quick do the code that Wheatlaw was suggesting, just so we can point out the fun here. So I can make while true, which actually, now that I think about it, I should just do it as a for loop, because why not? So instead of I is less than 5, we'll just say true, which actually, I think I can just leave it empty. Okay. So this is an infinite loop, because there is no resolution, so instead of saying that, I can do true, but that's the default case anyway, so I can just remove it entirely. So this is now an infinite loop, and you go, wait, Brendan, you really want to create an infinite loop? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. Because that's fun. Yes, we do. Infinite loops are the best. Okay, so, for example, I can now say, take 100. So I can grab the first 100 numbers, run this code, and don't do a take. Wheatlaw, let me start with a take, please. But yeah, that's the idea. Is I can do this sort of thing, and you'll look, and you'll see it went until it got to the number is 100, and you'll see I grabbed the first 100 numbers. And yes, if I did long, then it would go even. It would go further. I could absolutely change from int to long. That is valid. We could increase the amount of these that we can make. Okay, so does take require an int? Oh my god! Oh jeez, take requires an int. we can't do it. We can't do it. Yeah, I know. I can get rid of take. You just want me to smash my computer, huh? Take int.max value. There you go. We'll go to int max. We'll get like 2 billion something. But here's what'll happen, and it's going, and it is chugging along. Yeah, it's not gonna, it's gonna take forever. This is gonna be terrible, especially since it's trying to do it's not like doing console output, but it is doing some output. So I'm gonna kill that because it's just not gonna go. Yes, exactly. Yes, because this is not going to do it until it finishes, the way that the helper works. If I did this as a console app, which is really what I think Wheatlaw would really want to see, then that would totally have worked. Yeah, why not? We'll do a quick console app. We'll take a look because it's funny. Create a new project. Come on. A console C#, .NET Core. That is not where those go. Scratch folder. What is this? This is Innumerable craziness. T-Lox, random prime number is worse. So yeah, I've done prime number stuff a lot of times. I'm a big fan of doing prime number stuff because it's really kind of a neat concept. It's fun. Oh, I'm sorry about the white. I have no idea why Visual Studio, while in dark theme, in creating a project, would go white ever. I apologize about that, everyone. That was bad. It's fine if you use a light theme or a dark theme. Either one's okay. What's not okay is switching back and forth. That's just going to hurt everyone's eyes. You can pick whichever one you like, but don't switch. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab the code from our other one, which is this. And we're just going to take this code real fast, hop over here. Now, instead of doing the stuff we were doing, we're going to grab console logs, or console write lines, I mean. So we're going to do console write lines on those. This is now static again. No. Static. Static. Just gotta load in the right place. There we go. See? We made an infinite loop. This is how long this is taking. See that? That's taking forever. It's hard to even tell what those numbers are. I think we're only in the tens of thousands. I don't even think we're in 100,000 yet. Look at that. Yeah. There, we just crossed into 100,000. That is going to take forever. But that is the neat thing. So if anyone missed that, what we're highlighting right here is the really cool way that Innumerable works in C#, in that because it is not actually a collection, you can have it lazy load each value at runtime. So this is an infinite loop of this, essentially. You need a blank project, yeah. Oh, oh, Wheatlaw, you're funny. Code askew? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Maybe I'm just taking a guess. But either way, hi, welcome, greetings. Is there a way to refactor for efficiency? 2 nested for each loop? So the code we're writing, this is not intended, like the code we just wrote, that is not the way you would do this efficiently if you wanted to. Devils live on. Welcome, I'm guessing. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for that follow. So yeah, the code here was not intended to be efficient in any way. I mean, that's why it's like this. This is more to demonstrate that you can load some things after the fact. So times when you might do this, if there are calculation-intensive creation of an object, you might not want to do it even creating the next element until you need to. This could be like reading through some data, or whatever. You don't need to get it until you do the next one. Or this could also be the creation of each one needs to be based on the previous one, and that sort of thing could also. The Startup CTO, welcome, greetings, hello. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. It is funny to recreate all the loops in Link. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. So which actually brings up a really good point. So everyone take a look at the process memory over here and notice the fact that it is not changing. And now, while I understand that an integer is not exactly a large value, if we were to change this, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this even though it's been running for a while. If we were to do strings instead of longs, for example, so that they take up a little bit more space, let's go ahead and make these be like some kind of word or something. This will take memory space, and just to make sure that each one is different, we're going to go ahead and do that. So if you're thinking that numbers is a collection, then this should get crazy. Oh, okay, so here it goes. So we're watching that run. Okay, so we're up to our 16 megabytes of space. Let's see how 17 megabytes of space. Let's see how much it grows. Okay, so do while 4-step for each. The fact that strings are immutable means a lot of memory use. You'd think that code was Sean. You'd think that, but look at the graph, and this is what I wanted to show you. They can be, it's exactly what Wheatlall just said, they can be garbage collected. So here's the key to remember about enumerables. So if you've ever gotten warnings about like multiple enumerations of an enumerable, this is what it's talking about. An enumerable doesn't have to be a collection. And in a case like this, it makes a huge difference. Because if we were to enumerate this collection multiple times, we would have problems as a result of that. So each one of these that it has created is getting thrown away immediately. It is not keeping the previous records. I mean, look at how much this is. There's no way that that graph is static. I'm not saying it would be spiking without it, but we would have a ton more memory usage than what we're getting. Because, you know, like, again, it's not a small amount, but remember, we're making tens of thousands of these. So, like, we should see it going up a little bit, and it's really not. Not by any extent that we would actually measure, because it's just going to throw away each string each time. So yeah, exactly, T-Lox. There's not a leak in the memory here or anything like that. It is actually throwing it away as you'd expect. And I could make the strings bigger if you want me to show that, but I mean, we're about to cross like the million line here without, you know, having even impacted this. Exactly, yes. You'll see it goes up and back down and up and back down, and it's ever so slight. It just goes up until the point where the garbage collection kicks in and says, hey, you left a whole bunch of strings lying around, let me clear those out for you. And that's actually what it's doing, is we're just going up and down and up and down and up and down. And but we're not like uncontrollably rising. So that's the cool thing, is it really is just creating this and moving on. In fact, I could make an enumerable that spits out the current time, for example. So when the code tells you not to enumerate a collection, not to enumerate an enumerable multiple times, that's why. Is you don't know what an enumerable, you as a developer, you can't know for certain if it's just an enumerable. If you know, obviously if you didn't write it and you don't know that it's an underlying collection, you don't know what it is. And so the compiler, like the compiling of the tools and everything like that, is warning you, because it's sometimes unsafe to call an enumerable multiple times, because they could have state that they're changing. They could be based on some information that you don't have control. Exactly, yes. What Wheatlall's mentioning, you don't know what heresy people will pass into your function. Since it's essentially, you should not be trusting that the other developer passed you what you think they passed you. Like, if that person passed you something like this, you should be careful. And actually, if the other developer passed you an infinite loop and didn't tell you about that, well, that's a little crazy. But yep. So that's just the neat thing that I wanted to show, is that there's lazy loading. It really doesn't create those items until it gets to it. Grizzly Guru, hey, glad you're enjoying the stream. Thank you very much. I always like the hype. Let's go ahead and kill this for now. Let's jump back over to our code where we were writing this stuff for realsies. We'll get rid of that little side tangent stuff that we did. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump back into this code. So where were we? We are working on our plugin. We still have the bug where it's creating duplicates. Oh, if you enumerate an enumerable multiple times, so if you do this right here, so even without the take on there, this, we'll set this back to 10. I is less than 10. Let's watch what happens. Here, I'll give you the quick run-through of it. Alright, it loaded it on the other screen. So, So the value of I is 0. The number is, this will take memory space 1. So every time it says the value of I is, that means it came in and recalculated I. And you'll notice that on the second enumeration, it did it again. So each enumeration went through that collection and did it again. So it's like, if there were work to calculate it, or if the numbers could change, then that would cause us some problems. So if this is just returning I plus 1, for example, and we change this from string to long again, that's fine. And this I should have just made var so that we could be changing types out from under ourselves here. So if you look, it does both twice. Whereas if this were turned into a list, for example, so right here, it knows that this IEnumerable, the compiler can tell that that IEnumerable is a list now. We'll do it once. So watch what happens. When I run it this way, this is the code everybody expected to begin with, instead of what the IEnumerable did. You'll see it evaluates each of the values once, and then it does the two loops once each. And what caused that is I told it by saying toList, I said, hey, I want to take your enumerable, grab all your values, and store these in an actual collection. Whereas with this removed, it leaves it as an IEnumerable, which means it's just a get next item placeholder. And when we run it, you'll see that, again, they're interweaved, and we have the calls into the method twice for each number that it gets. So for example, as Code with Sean says, if you were calling to a database or something like that, then you would be calling the database again and again and again and again and again to get the next values. Or maybe you're reading them out of a file or something like that. And yes, so as Wheatlaw's mentioning, there are types that handle lazy scenarios like this where you want to last minute grab things. And some of them do nice pieces where they will put it into a list so that the second enumeration doesn't have to do that, and that's actually a much better form of lazy loading, because then you really are loading and not just, lazy getting the value. And since we didn't save them, they were just going away. Okay. What do we want to do with this? So let's go ahead and load the code, see what happens. Where is save? Mac Gene, welcome. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. So is it your Code Sean, so is it your suggestion to not use an IEnumerable as a method parameter? No, Code with Sean, if all you need is essentially a sequence of data in some kind of order that you can get, and you just need to act on each one, and you're only going to go through it one time, accepting an IEnumerable is totally fine. If you are going to need to enumerate it twice like that, I thought I did delete it. I'll check again, Mac. Thanks for the heads up. I'll look to make sure I got rid of it. And yes, Code with Sean, if you do need to enumerate multiple times on something and you had previously said an IEnumerable is acceptable, then you need to toList it. So if you're going to enumerate it multiple times, a lot of the time what I would suggest is make your parameter in your method instead be an iList or an iCollection, which will not be that lazy loaded type like an IEnumerable. It has to be resolved in order for it to be an iCollection or an iList, for example. So that's the way to get around that. That being said, if you've established the API already and don't want a breaking change on anyone that might have been using an IEnumerable, then you just have to toList it on your side, or to array it or something. Let's see. I will mention the advantage of doing an I list instead of a list or an array, instead of just two listing or two arraying, is that if it didn't matter what the type was that they gave you, it's not worth the effort to convert it from one or the other. So there is effort, minimized effort, but there is effort to switch between an array and a list, and vice versa. So, just a heads up there. Okay, I wanted to go to save entities to see what the heck is going on here. So this is my plugin info entities, which I need to resolve by seeing the result of this. And actually what I should do before continuing on is make this a variable just so it's a little easier to see. Okay. Oh, my example CS. Do I still have that? I thought I deleted that. It's gone from this one. I still have this class over here though, so I think I did delete it. Devils Live On. That is a topic that I think we'll cover further when we start adding async to this. I don't want to dive into that one today because I do want to make some progress on these plugins. And I've already sidetracked once for the day. So, but yes, it is actually a really cool conversation. The topic that you are suggesting we discuss. Let's try running this again. So we've emptied it out. So I emptied the collection again. We don't have a way of deleting yet, so that's why I'm having to do the weirdness here. Maybe we should just build that into the UI. When you're missing features and you're just like, clearly the answer to missing features is just writing raw code. What entity am I trying to save? Where did I call this from? Hang on, I need to see where I'm calling from. Plugins list changed. Uh-oh, okay. Plugins list changed. Oh no, oh no. Now it's saving it with two entities because it sees it has changed. Uh-oh, I see what happened. I see how we ran into a problem. So we don't define an ID for those plugins in any way. So they don't have one. So I kind of want to create one so we don't run into a problem here. So let's fix. Let's check out the docs for LightDB. And int ID. If I create an int ID on this, it'll auto create it, right? And then that should be all I have to do to make sure that we have one automatically. I believe so. Okay, so let's go to plugin info. Okay, a couple of other things that we need to do on this. So first off, I want to define the ID so that it knows that these are the same item and it doesn't create the duplicate when it goes to save it, which is where we're running into a problem. Because I did say, I think I'm saving it again when the items are coming into the collection, which first off, I want to prevent that from happening. So I need to see if I can get them to load when it's loading and not see that as a change to the collection. And then in addition, so we're doing that there. The challenge is that when we create this, the plugin set must not have been loaded yet. I thought the plugin set loaded itself. Does it not? Does the base set do some loading? Ooh, yes it does. Okay, that's where we're running into the problem. The base set then loads after it loads, when it initializes, and that's what we need to undo. Okay, I understand. Maybe I should just make this not a base one? I think that's the answer. This is not a base one anymore. And then we resolve the issue that way. You're no longer this. Can I get away with that? Now, if we do that, then I have to register these. Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to run into this problem with all of them, aren't I? So I need to stop doing this here. Maybe what I do instead is... Hey, Mimash, welcome. Is LightDB the NoSQL version of SQLite? Codeskew, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it loads after it loads. Is there a place to see which extensions? You mean like which Twitch extensions I have turned on? We're building a thing for this. So Codeskew, that is a fantastic question, and the answer is not yet. And the reason is that we want to switch this to a different framework. So we're currently using WPF because that's what exists. But we want to do a migration over to .NET 5 when that's available, and we're also thinking MAUI, which we don't know when that's going to become available. So as a result, we don't want to tie ourselves to an MVVM framework that may not do the switch with us. So we will be picking one that we think is going to be able to switch. Yes, exactly, House Basuk. We want to use MAUI because then we get cross-platform out of the box on, I'll say, first-party .NET support. There are other frameworks that will do UI applications using .NET that are not like the official ones, and I considered looking at some of those solutions as well. And we may still even try one if MAUI doesn't end up panning out, or if we want to switch to it sooner rather than later. But the idea is we want people on Mac and Linux to be able to run this, at least in theory, and so we can't go that route without it. So let's go to the base set and let's not do this. So we're going to get rid of initialize. I don't know who's calling that, but I'm going to fix whatever is calling it and say, no, we don't load here. You have to load yourself elsewhere. In fact, I'm going to get rid of initialize from that. That's actually a good point. We're not even going to initialize. No, that's not the way we're doing it. We're fixing this. We're fixing the code. Gonna fix it. Where fixing means go and remove stuff and then make sure it works right. Okay, so our test set needs to change. This is the one that is just a base set. Needs an enumerable of string that we'll call data, and we'll say items equals a new binding set of data. Can this not take an enumerable? It needs an ilist. Okay, that's fine. It'll take an ilist. That's fine. We're not worried about that. Okay, so it'll pass in an ilist here. And then you're going to go, but wait a minute, how are you going to do that? Because then you're going to have some problems where that's not initialized to the right set in each one of those. And yep, you're totally right. We will run into that problem. And the way we're going to resolve it is like this. Var that. And goodbye to that. This was just checking initialize. Inside the base set, I wonder if we undo that, can we get away with that? Can we in some way guarantee that every one of these actually initializes it? Hang on, what's going on? You have no bugs if you remove the code that creates the bug. Exactly, Wheatlall. That's thinking. David from Xamarin team told that Xamarin code will be running in Maui, and maybe moving UI to Xamarin frames with UWP and maybe yeah. So Osmazook, there are absolutely plans. So they want to make the transition an easy one. So they are going to make a lot of this stuff work. What I don't know is if everything is going to translate, and so that's why I want to wait. Code Askew, we are building a modular application. So the idea is we're currently figuring out how we want our plugins to initialize, so that essentially when custom code gets added into your application, we want it to load and run and essentially tie itself into everything else in the app. So anything it needs to register with, it needs to be able to add itself to the menu collection, for example, add itself to a context menu choices, add itself into listeners for what is going on in Twitch chat, to be able to add itself just to the collection of plugins so that that information is made available. And those are the types of things that we're working on right now, is making sure that it registers with all the pieces so that it functions as a plugin in this. Yeah, it is a little weird that they're using the Xamarin XAML instead of the WPF XAML, which I get that they're thinking that that's the cross-platform crowd already, and so I get that there's reason for that. I've always found the Xamarin versions of stuff to be more complicated than the WPF versions, but what are you gonna do? They're not terribly different anyway. It's just a few pieces change. Okay, so the base set of items, I guess, can be nullable, but it really shouldn't ever be nullable. Or we make it a collection, and then what do we want to do with this? So we give it the collection. So I could go this route, where we just require that the base set receive an ilist of t that is the items, and it just say items equals new binding list that takes in the set of items. And this absolutely works. This needs to change to protected. That's why it's yelling at us here. And this totally works and wires up the same thing. The trick is that now everything that it inherits from this, which would be just one thing for now, has to change how it works. So instead of passing in the collection like this, I have to do one of these, which is not the worst thing ever, but it is a little bit strange to have code that's running that's going to hit the database inside of a constructor. Is very weird to me. It's not so weird inside of like the meat of the constructor, but up here it looks weird because people are not expecting code to be there. So that's what's weird about this. Exactly, Wheatlall. That's why I don't really like that approach. but I don't have a great way around it right now. So maybe I will do this and then hope that someone can get me a nice. Yes, I know. Someone can get me a nice rewrite. I don't. I don't want to get. I don't want to get tied down with that right now. Make it work and then make it right. First step, make it work. Next step, make it right. So for now, we're gonna put the wrong thing in here, and then next time we can do the right thing. So we'll pass in data. There we go. Make it wrong and then make it right. Yeah, pretty much, Wheatlall. But make it wrong is make it work. Things are a little slow right now. Dice and what are you talking about, T-Locks? Tune your resume for what you're looking for? Sorry. I see someone asked a question that I totally missed. Okay, so first off, let me answer some of the faster ones. So Codeskew, also, is that how you say your name? Tell me if I'm saying that wrong. You said the plugins can be added on the fly, or the app should be restarted when a new plugin is injected. We're thinking the latter, Codeskew. We're thinking the former. We're thinking that that you should just be able to load it into that folder. It should detect it automatically and be able to run. And that's actually the approach that we want to have it do in the long term. So if someone just, they're running the app and they just toss it in the folder, we want to detect that a change happened in the folder, read what that change was, load the plugin if there is one there, and let the user immediately start working with it and using it. They'll have to enable it. We'll load the metadata, but not actually run it until they tell us to enable it. But that's the idea. No, Mac, I don't think that's spam. You just graduated from a full stack boot camp and you haven't had any luck with your job applications in the past month or so. So first off, I will tell you, right now is a strange job market to be coming into. General recommendations: you have a portfolio in GitHub. Okay, good. Because I was gonna say, first thing is have some examples of stuff that you can actually do. You absolutely want to have a GitHub account and make sure that is mentioned in some way on your resume or in your a cover letter or something like that. Other general tips. Make it obvious that you are involved in the community and learning and interested in stuff. I don't know how many people are applying to the same jobs that you are. Because the market is weird right now, because even among tech, we got a little bit of downturn just from the pandemic and everything like that. So it has not skipped tech entirely. That being said, a lot of tech people can work remotely, so our jobs did not disappear in that sense. But if the company that you're working for had economic issues, then it probably did reduce the number of employees, let people go, and then they're also competing with you for any jobs that you'd be looking for. Yeah, exactly. So Surly just took a look and when you're seeing 30 to 40 people applying for a job, which surprisingly is very low compared to what some other industries are having, that still means that it's tough competition to find the job that you're looking for. But yes, there are some other places to look. All the standards like Dice, Monster, Indeed, everything like that. Stack Overflow jobs is not one of the worst places to look either, because I know there are a bunch posted there. Yeah, it's a weird market right now. Normally, what I would tell people that are looking for jobs is to attend their local events, find your local user groups and things like that, and attend those as well, for a variety of reasons. One thing, you might actually meet people that would want to hire you there. You shouldn't be trying to sell your stuff and like trying to get hired there, but you can mention to people that you are looking and what you are, blah blah blah, like that. If they're introductions at the user group, things like that. Other options like that obviously doesn't apply right now because the user group isn't happening publicly or in person. But then you also have the added benefit of being able to mention that that's something that you do. That, hey, I attend the such and such user group, and that can be something you talk about if you actually make it to an interview as well. Mentioning attending Twitch live streams, live coding streams, is actually an equivalent of a user group thing, because there are programming discussions you can have here as well. The number of applicants is deceiving, since a large group that can't find jobs will be an applicant for every job with little chance of getting it, so it skews the numbers. Yeah, that is actually very true, yes. People applying for a lot of jobs will skew the numbers up. You're too old to switch for a .NET developer job at 30... Codaskew, are you too old to switch to a .NET developer job at 35 years old? What are you doing right now, Codaskew? 35 is absolutely not too old to start doing .NET. You can be much older than that and switch into it. So, yes, exactly. As that one says, you'll be older in 5 years, so might as well start now. Yes, I would say start now. Yeah, no problem. Glad. Hopefully that answer helped a little bit. So basically, what I was saying is, just try and get involved in communities, even if they don't directly find you a job. Being involved in the developer community helps you to stand out a little bit. So it is one of the nice things. And yes, they're switching into .NET dev jobs is, or really any tech job. Yes, it is definitely harder when you're older or younger to get into either one, but it's not impossible on either. So, okay, let's go fix all these test cases, because I made it so that this now needed to be new. So we're gonna say var test set equals new test set. So that's what we're going to look for in this, and we're going to replace it with that. The current document, place 3 times. Cool. Rename that, and rename that. Let's rerun these tests and have a look at what's going on. Do you think it's ever worth putting a challenge solution from one of the classic sites on your resume when applying to junior positions? Mr. Terrible, I wouldn't actually include that in there. What I would recommend to people do is, if you are doing that kind of stuff, that should be on your GitHub. If that is on your GitHub profile, if someone goes to your GitHub profile and they see the repositories that you work on, and you have one that's like, hey, such and such solutions, something like that, and they can go and see your solutions to that, that's a valuable thing. Even if they don't look at the code, just knowing that when you were doing them, you were keeping it in source control is a positive. So that can be useful. And then you can mention that you could mention them either in a cover letter or in your resume. If you didn't have experience, you could mention that you've done those types of things, and that they are in your GitHub profile is absolutely something you could put in there. But I wouldn't individually list all the ones you've done. That'd be a separate thing. I would just mention in there, hey, this is one of the things I do in my spare time. You interviewed a guy who used to do electronics repair and switched to programming when he realized things were starting to be designed to be replaced instead of repaired. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay, awesome, Surly Dev. Yeah. Exactly. What Wheatlaw is mentioning is it shows that you have interest in programming outside of that, which I will point out, you do not need to do that to be a good programmer. You do not need to be working on the side. You do not need to be doing side projects. You can still be a good programmer without that, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, when trying to find a job, if that's what can make you stand out and you have the time and ability to do it, then I would recommend taking that chance, and trying to do some of that stuff. Um, oh, that's interesting, Telox. I didn't know that there were recruiting companies that did that. Your team, when you interview people, always ask beforehand if you have an available code repository that we can look at. Yeah, exactly. Yep, precisely. If you have a GitHub repository that they can look at and take a look, that is an absolutely a win in your column. Um, you just started watching Great Scream. Josh, thanks. Much appreciated. How much importance would you place on coding skill for non-software developer career paths in the near future? Like, you mean if you're not going to be a developer, how important is it going to be for non-developers to be able to program? Um, so I do think that being able to program a little bit is absolutely a valuable skill for people in a lot of different jobs, and I will cite a handful of reasons. For one thing, if you're in a job where you're going to be using Excel or other things like that, just being able to do some simple scripting, to be able to do some stuff, is very, very useful. And the advantage there, you go, but wait a minute, they can just go online and look at that. And I say, yes, they can. And if they know how to code, then when they look at that script that someone put out on the internet that does some cool thing in Excel, because they understand coding, they will understand what that person just did and maybe be able to modify it or change it for their specific conditions. And so I do think there's value in that. Do I think everybody should learn to program at like a professional software developer that's building stuff for companies level? Probably not. But I do think there's value in understanding how coding works to be able to even understand what simple scripts are doing. Whenever you go to job interviews, you always look for a printout of some kind of code, such as a stored procedure. Always show up to interviews with like literal printed copies of your resume, enough that both you could have one and any interviewers that showed up without one could have one. Just all the general stuff, which is, just not even related to programming, but have all that stuff ready. One of the big things is try not to worry too much. You have a hard time coming up with a projects list because when you finish them, you're not sure they're good enough to talk about. Doesn't matter, terrible. If you've got projects, put them in there. It's better to have them and have the code be terrible than to not have them, in my opinion. Because when people are like, "How do you get to be a good programmer?" The short answer is practice. Like, some people are going to start out at a higher baseline than other people, but if you aren't practicing, if you're not writing a bunch of code and thinking about what you're doing and trying to improve, you're not getting better. If someone is practicing, even if their code right now is not that great, it should get better over time. So you got to start automating your job by programming VB in Excel and Word. Yes, exactly, Surly Dev. Yep. That is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. You're learning .NET and practicing with a few personal projects, nothing too fancy. You currently work on DevOps, which you want to do a .NET job. Requires technologies like Angular, React. Okay, so a couple of things, Codeskew. First off, all of those things that you mentioned there are the older ones, except for the Angular/React piece. So don't worry about that. Learn ASP.NET Core because that is the future. So you do want to learn that and not the other ones. Exactly. Yes. As RogoJS mentioned, if you get criticism for if the criticism you receive on your code is not constructive, you didn't want to work there anyway. Yes, exactly. Yep, they're precisely putting doing all those macros and other things like that. That's one of the reasons why non-developers should learn how to code, is because there's a lot of that type of stuff that you can do. Okay, so back to this. 2 tests failing, huh? Add handler on register. Why did this fail? Collection is read-only. Collection is read-only. What? It is? That's not a read-only collection. I don't think. Detected, getter, yes. Binding list shouldn't be read-only. Maybe I'm crazy. I might be crazy. And yes, Code with Sean perfectly said. Developers need to set their ego aside because you should always be learning, and you actually learn from everyone, and that's one of the big keys that a lot of people don't realize. And it's funny, Code with Sean is mentioning having made that mistake in your youth, but a lot of people actually make that as senior developers or intermediate developers and other things like that, not as junior developers. Because the junior developer often, like, you can have a junior developer that has a lot of confidence because they're like, oh, I'm so great, I'm so great, I'm so great, and they're in the Dunning-Kruger point right there. Usually when you hit that one. But the senior developers run into a different problem, and they make the assumption that they can't learn anything from the juniors. So, some do. Plenty don't have this problem. But the neat thing about that is that everybody thinks the senior developer mentors the junior developer, which is true. They do. But both on that point, the senior developer's actually learning more from teaching that person also. So you both learn because you're reinforcing your understanding of things as you teach the other person, but also they're almost always going to ask questions that are going to upset what you think is the way things work. And when they do that, you actually learn a whole bunch more. Additionally, the younger developers often don't have the same I kind of want to say, like, it's almost like brain debt that we have from, like, these understandings of these old technologies that we both use to build on, but also shape our understanding of things. So the newer dev can look at it with different eyes than we do and get different understanding. There's also, like, the younger dev could teach you about a framework you don't know. They can teach you about a technology you don't know, a language you don't know. Also, Codescu, thank you very much for that follow, and wow. Ring, welcome. Thanks for that follow. You're not going to get me to say your whole name on there, though. Good try, though. It's basically Wheatlaw's greater than the others. Exactly, Wheatlaw. As senior dev, I feel seen. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So Code with Sean's talking about, like, you elevated to the rank of a senior dev within an organization, and then had the opinion that you wouldn't learn anything from the juniors, which, agreed, is absolutely wrong, completely untrue. You will learn a ton from the juniors, both because two people don't have the same set of knowledge. So it doesn't matter, even if you know that you have more knowledge than the other person, some of what they know is things you don't know. And you can gain that if you're willing to. And that's part of the thing about, like, leaving the ego behind, is you'll learn a lot from everyone else. Yes, that is correct, Ring. We are very careful. We read names before saying them so that we don't accidentally say a name we didn't want to say. Are you willing to mentor junior developers? And I basically said I love finding things that precisely, Surly Dev. Yes. It should go both ways. It should always go both ways. You're going to teach them things, they're going to teach you things. It's always. Surly Dev, more what I'm talking about is length of experience in that point. So everybody knows different things, you're right. But someone that is literally twice my age probably knows a lot more stuff than I do. But when you talk related to specific topics, yes, I would say that it is different. Objectively, people have different amounts of information in their brains, but what I should specify, Surly, is I'm not saying one person's clearly smarter and better than the other. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have different sets of information, and objectively someone might have more, and it might be the junior dev that has more knowledge in their head. Maybe it's not related, maybe they don't apply it in certain ways, and that could be the disparity, or it could just be from years of experience that they have different rules. The point being, you don't know what someone else knows. Yes, exactly. And Sterling Dev, you're right there. And the funny thing is, when people started talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, that's actually what I mentioned all the time, because I warned lots of people to be careful not to get stuck in a rut. So I'm actually a second generation programmer. I'm actually the child of a programmer, which is one of the weird, like, when you talk about having advantage going into things. I absolutely have plenty of developer privilege there, though strangely. My dad never taught me programming in any capacity at all, but I always knew it was a job that you could do, which in itself is really advantageous. But the thing that's strange about that is that what I had discovered is that because I then knew some of the community of developers before I became one, I did start to notice there are a lot of people that just fell behind and didn't seem to care. And they were the ones that were essentially doing that, like, 2 years repeated over and over and over. And what I told people was, like, because I had that same understanding, even as a kid, that it was like, no, these people aren't like learning new things. They're not advancing with technology. They're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you're right. That's how you end up with the same year repeated over and over. And those people, I will also point out, are very smart and know a lot of things and can be very, very helpful. I have helped more than a few developers that were caught in that rut, repeating the same year over and over again, and helped them get to the point where they were like a growing developer again. Peacerer, is it possible for a 40-year-old IT guy who's learning coding for real now to join a company as a junior? It is. The warning that I'll give you is that you really are going to go to the bottom of the totem pole and climb your way back up. Senior dev is learning from a junior, and the junior is learning from a senior. What's the point of the senior dev? Code with Sean, exactly. I usually... at a company that I worked for a bunch of years ago, I was pushing for everyone just being a developer, and salaries could vary however you want, but there's not really any reason to the title except maybe differences in jobs. So the couple of responsibility differences that sometimes come up are, like, you might have a lead who is like they get an extra set of responsibilities, kinds of things. The team's self-organizing still, in that they make their own decisions as a group on how they want to do things. But there is essentially like a tiebreaker, or an executive decision just needs to be made, and that's that rule. And that is about the only difference that I make, where you have lead developers and you've got developers, and then everybody else is just the same. Shovel Knight the best. Teach some C#. Yeah, we do a lot of C# here, which you will see on our stream as we do things. Right now I'm caught in a little bit of a discussion, which I don't mind because I like the discussions. This is DevChatter after all, so we're going to do some dev and some chatter. And then we're in the chatter part right now, obviously, but but occasionally we do like learning C# streams, so absolutely you'll want to catch those if you can. Shovel Knight. So some are more focused than others. No one in your family is technical at all. You started programming when you were 9, and not long ago sold one of your projects, so self-teaching can be one. Yes, exactly. Connor Wright's correct. So as I point out, so that's the funny thing, is I am a second-generation programmer, but my parent never taught me to program at all. In fact, once I knew how to code, I helped teach him some of the new stuff. I was never taught programming by my parent. I actually also learned on my own. I do like to specify, as people here have heard me mention before, I am not self-taught. I am community-taught. And I like to point that out for one big reason, and that is that I read documentation, I read articles, I read forum posts. Like, I didn't have like a direct teacher showing me these things. I read through other people's source code. I looked through like open source projects. I looked at the source code of websites. I looked through other people's JavaScript. I looked at the things they posted. I did some trial and error on my own with code and just messing around with it. So yeah, self-taught you can try to make a case for, but no. I learned from the community of other developers that are out there who provided their content for free all over the place and made it available. And so that is where I learned how to code. So that is actually one of the big reasons why I write blog posts, I write articles, I write videos, I speak at conferences, I live stream, I do all kinds of things, giving back to that same community and making it possible for other people to do the same kinds of things I did and still do now. I still learn from the community, and I still want to provide information to that same community for other people to do the same. So, absolutely. Community taught. I really want to push all of us to embrace that concept, because we really are, as a community, teaching each other. Is there a playlist for this stream? You'd like to watch the series from the beginning? Yes, so Codescue, if you take a look, you'll see a link to our YouTube down below the stream, and you can actually go there. There's both a playlist for the Chatterbot project we're working on, as well as playlists for any other projects we worked on, other things like that. You want to participate in open source projects, but you don't know how to learn the project and where to start from. Most projects have an article that is about how to contribute, which will explain some of the ways that you can contribute. But you're right. Some of the challenges you're going to run into is that if it is a complicated project, it's going to be harder to contribute to. My recommendations for beginning that is when you're working with a project and you notice an issue with the documentation or something like that, or typos, those types of things. Those are easy changes to suggest and make. You don't have to do full features, or if you run into a bug with it, or if you see that there is one. Those are the kinds of things I'd recommend you start with, like the simple things. You don't want to just jump right in. And yes, as Surly mentions, you need, that's why I said while you're using one, you notice a problem. You want to make sure that it is a project that you use or have interest in. And yes, yep, so as Surly's mentioning, I said you could do one of the easy bugs and things like that. A lot of projects will have marked help wanted, or essentially like stuff for people to join in and do. T-Lux, you did not succeed. I noticed what you did. You're excited to start working and you just wanted to be hired already. Is everyone probably? Yes, exactly. Terrible. And that's the problem with the market right now. Is it is harder to find a job right now in basically the entire job market, which sadly includes programming right now. Okay, so when this runs, you're telling me that it thinks that that is a... When it calls register on this, I didn't think a binding list was... that's the problem. True. Allow, remove, true. Allow, edit, true. Okay. So that's what we needed. See? Some of those things that you gotta dig into. Figure out. Come on, tests. Let's do it. Nope, still says not supported. Collection is read-only, huh? That's silly. Okay, items. Oh, add new. Okay, it's this one. Do we have to do that? Adds a new item to the collection. Of type T? Do I have to specify? Because it doesn't know it? Wait, it just adds a... Does it return? It must return the item. So how do I add the item then? Yeah, it doesn't take an argument, it gives you the new object it created, which means I would need to assign the properties of this object based on the new one that we received. So then I would need to like map the properties onto it, which is weird, first off. So how do I create that then? Where do you create the item list that you pass the constructor? I think add should work. Something funny is going on. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that as well. It's like binding list. Can you not add to that? I'm gonna have a look. Yes. Binding list. Add versus add new. Which you don't. To pass add, yes. Why is the one failing? System, this is just collection. System component model binding list. We're gonna have a look. Yeah, so... Exactly. I agree. It seems weird that we can add new, but add would fail. Like, T-Lox, you can grab any VPN you want to get is fine. There's different variances on them, but if you just want to get like a personal VPN, just go grab any VPN you want and just sign up for it. There's not a huge like. Most of them don't maintain logs and have servers in a lot of places and configure and set up pretty easily. So pick the one that you want, use it, and they'll be fine. There's like a dozen that'll advertise on every nerd YouTube channel that you want to watch, and you can just pick one from those. If all you want is just a VPN and you don't too much care about the difference, I would also say look into reviews of how well it works in I don't know which country you live in, but wherever you are in the world, just take a look, and I'm sure you can find some reports from people. Let's look for the word add. List of parts. What is list of parts? It is a binding list. Yeah. We allow for adding. Yeah. Look at that. That's absolutely what we're doing. It's a binding list of that type, and we're adding new. We said allow new, allow remove. that should totally work. Items add item. Why doesn't that work? Why? Go to where you invoke the constructor. Right here. Oh, because you think that it's actually using that because the underlying data collection is immutable, that it will be immutable? Oh man, that'd be annoying. Okay. Well, if that's the case, let's find out if that one's suddenly fixed. If that actually makes a difference, then I'm gonna want to change that inside of the inside of the base set. Wow, that actually did it. So what that means is that when it calls add, that's actually just a pass through to the underlying collection, and it doesn't have its own version of that. So it, instead of creating a new set, is just monitoring the collection that we passed it. So that means that we get any of the restrictions of the collection that we gave it. So because we can't do that on an array, we run into that problem. So let's change this so that it is not an I list. We're going to actually, for now, just restrict it to a list. So it has to give us a list of items because we want that to be a mutable collection. Okay. Good catch. Thank you for realizing that that was what was going on. Yes, exactly. Yes, Wheatlol. We could just change the way the... Yeah, so... In this case, the iList interface allows for both arrays and lists. It is an interface that supports both of them. The difference is that the array is not a list, which means it doesn't have like the auto expanding, like we're going to increase the capacity type thing. And if you're wondering why did I change the type on that, then you should go check out my previous rant tangent from episode 255. But this one, the reason why I'm restricting it to a list is the fact that because we're going to need that collection anyway, I'm going to ask people to send me that one. Now, I could leave it as an iList and say, essentially, if it's an array, convert it to a list by just like .toListing it, and it would convert it. Or alternately, I could do the same way that Wheatlol suggested, which is creating a new list that has that set of items in it. And it would create a list from the array, and then I could use that list as the underlying collection of the binding list. Either one would be fine, but since I did not do anything special for episode 256, Surly Dev, I maybe should have, but I didn't. And this is episode 257, so what are you going to do? It's a good one, all the same. You'd get a performance hit doing that, though, wouldn't you? Potentially, Telox. Potentially, depending on what the collection is. Surly Dev, I am more of a geek about 256 than you know, but my schedule's been ridiculous right now, and I wasn't going to delay things, and certainly was not going to have time to actually do anything special for that one. So, I was lucky enough to be able to do a stream. Not gonna push for any more than that. This one needs to convert as well. Change that to a list. Now, do all of these pass? I guess I could have made the test set one take an array. I'll do something special for 314. Yeah, maybe. There are a lot of interesting ones that we can do. But no, didn't do anything special for 256. 256 is actually a really important number, since it's round in both hex and binary. Well, that'll be a little while, Wheatlall. 420 is not exactly a stream time that's coming up soon. Okay, so let's have a look at our data. Let's have a look. Gotta pump those numbers up. Yeah, those are the rookie numbers. And yes, Icy Black Deep, if I had maintained my original schedule from the first couple of years of streaming, I would be around, episode 300 or so by now easily. So, but didn't have the time. Unable to cast object of type object DB to type system int. Ooh. That's an interesting one. Plugin info. I'm going to want to look into that. Potential problem over there. Oh, did I just catch a... Yes, I did. What's going on? Oh, weird. We just threw an exception over in one of the bots. Huh. Final question about resume stuff. You have a few projects you've done but not committed to GitHub. Is the consistency of your commits an issue, or do the projects being there, bots being there, going to matter a lot more? Terrible. Someone might look into your actual commits to take a look at how you build it, but if they if you just see that your project just went in as a chunk, I think someone will understand that. I would recommend that you have at least one project in there that is a good example of that. So it's something to look at. Is this chatbot going to be embedded to other websites? So I'm not currently planning on making this a web app bot. I was planning on making this one that you run locally, and the reason being that makes it easier and easier to do essentially unlimited customizations of it. Whereas if it were running on a website, that is harder to do, because we don't want to let you send your code up to it. So local bot allows for more customization and plugins and things like that. I guess you could make it a web app that they host themselves, but then people have to host their own website, which, is costly. Considering you can compress and squelch GitHub commits, shouldn't be too much of an issue. Yeah, exactly. What is the best way to handle them at the UI level, or catch and rethrow from class libraries? Depends on what type of exception it is. In that case, it really depends on what type of exception. I do recommend for most consumer level applications that at the top level you do catch all unhandled exceptions, logging them, so that you can give friendly messages to the user about the error instead of just crashing the app on them. That being said, you want to try and catch and respond at lower levels if you can, because sometimes an exceptional case is one that you can handle. But be mindful of that if you can't actually handle it, you want to log and throw to a higher level so that the user-friendly error messages can be sent, and whatever they are. It's there's a lot of variance in that, actually. I would not embed this in a website with iframes or something like this. It would actually just be a hosted application. So we would change this from a WPF app to a web app, is how we would actually do it. Exactly, Space Shot, that is correct. If you don't know how you're going to handle the exception, don't catch it. That is correct. You go all the way to the top. That being said, sometimes you can catch, handle, respond, and make sure that there's still a message that makes it up to the user. That's the case that I'm talking about. So there are some times where the way that you handle it is by swallowing it because there isn't an answer. And if you know that, then you still want to report something to the user, but still log it in some way. Exactly, as Wheatlaw says, catch and rethrow. Yep. Just make sure that when you rethrow that you just do throw. Don't throw the exception or throw a new exception, as that will actually mess up the stack trace. That doesn't mean you shouldn't come up with one, but don't even put in the placeholder code because you'll forget about it later. Yes. So what we're talking about, Space Shot, is you can do a catch as long as you rethrow it, but what you don't want to do is swallow it without having handled it. So if you know that the answer is that you're always going to swallow the exception and just not handle it, then you can do that. But what you don't want to do is have it go unhandled because you didn't handle it correctly. So if you haven't handled it yet, let it bubble all the way up to the top and throw the exception. Because you're correct, you're going to forget about it, and you're going to have these exceptions that are happening that no one's noticing because they don't make it to the user. So, okay. Let's see what's going on. Just going to let this continue for a minute. Okay, application should load. We have those in there. That's correct. They're listed as new. So now we're going to restart, and I want them to be they will probably still be new, which is fine, but they should have come out of the database this time, and we're hopefully not going to have 3, but I think we're about to have 3. And we have 3. So something must still be doing ads on these, and I'm going to need to look into what that is, because that's how we end up with 3. So we're going to have to figure that out. So we've got an issue with saving that we will take a look at. You worked with a bit of code that did that, and it was a pain to debug when it broke later. Exactly, T-Lox. Yes, if you're swallowing exceptions, you're going to run into those problems. You kind of need to maybe this is done, but there aren't any instances where you don't need to do anything if an exception gets through. Yes, so sometimes if there's an exception that's just outside of your control, there's nothing you can do about it, there's no way to handle it, all you do is log, then terrible, the thing that you do with it is log it and just make a record of it. Even if logging means incrementing a count of how many times you've received it, or just recording the date that it happened so you know how frequently it is, and that can be information that developers can use to say, like, look, we need to get this API fixed, we know that your API is failing sometimes, look, our users are hitting this all the time, see how often this is happening, here's how many we had in the course of a week. It's like those types of things. So if you say this is outside of our control, there's no way to respond to it or correct it or fix it, just log it so that you have the information. And then essentially you are ignoring it, but you're doing nothing about it, but you're logging that it happened. And that is one of the cases that is very simple. Yes, for example, Wheatlaw's if the errors are doubling every week or something like that, increasing, decreasing, if there's some change, that gives you information that you wouldn't otherwise have. Yes, exactly. A lot of exceptions, the way you handle them is just log them. So because it could be that this is an exception that we don't know the correct action at this point, and a developer is going to need to look into what the bug is that caused it. Anyway, so that being said, okay, glad I was able to assist with that. I am going to commit this code, and we will be back probably on Monday. If not Monday, it'll be Tuesday. So don't duck away anywhere yet. I want to thank everybody for hanging out today. I really enjoyed our stream. I had a lot of fun. We had some really cool discussions, and that is always appreciated here. So thank you for hanging out and making this an interesting stream at least. So, as I said, if you are new here, welcome. Feel free to click the follow button, as that's the best way to get notified when we go live. If you are interested in communicating with us more frequently and not just while we're at the streams, you can join our Discord. You can find a link to that down below. Discord is a chat program that is used a lot by gamers, Twitch streamers, as well as a number of open source projects and other collaboration efforts. and we've got a link to ours. We've got a GitHub down below as well, so if you want to take a look at this code or use it for any reason, you can find it there. So if you want to help us out with this project, feel free to go there. Right now we're working on this plugin piece, so once this is done, and in here, it'll be easier for people to contribute to the project again. We've had points where it is easier or harder to contribute, so again, you can still look at the code there, and you can also try following me on GitHub using that link. Links to Twitter and other stuff are down below as well as our YouTube channel, which contains the archives of all of our episodes going back literally years. So feel free to take a look at any of that. Our usual stream schedule, of which I know in any given week I'm probably going to cancel one because my schedule's completely crazy right now, but we usually stream on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and they're usually during the middle of the day for the US. So if you are, east of me, then I'm streaming in the evenings, and if you're west of me, I might be streaming in the mornings. Streams start at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays and Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, and on Thursday they start at about noon my time, although those sometimes shift a little bit, which is why I recommend that people follow me on Twitch, as then you get a notification about it when we go live, and you can actually just show up. Because we did, for example, start, I think, an hour late today. Whoops. But either way, I want to thank everyone for hanging out, and I look forward to seeing all of you next one. Do people have preferences for where we go after this? Because I was thinking we would raid over to another channel, which is always a nice thing. I'm not sure who's live right now. I can check and see if there are live coders. We could also, now that I think about it, we could raid one of our friends from the gaming community, because we have not been over there in a while. Not sure what people's thoughts are on that. Twitch app, probably push notification if you let it. Hey, no problem, T-Lux. I have no idea. I would have to look and see. Someone got nightbotted for posting a link, which I'm guessing was a link to a Twitch streamer. But not sure. Either way, you know what? Let's go to gaming. That sounds fun. Yeah, Nightbot's a little overzealous if it's a link. Sorry about that. We're gonna do that. So hold on to your butts. I will raid us over to a stream that I'm pretty sure is going to be a fun one. So stick around. It'll be a little gaming and retro and interesting. And either way, I'm going to toss us in the outro screen before we duck away. But before I forget, I almost forgot to run my credits. I want to make sure that I thank everybody for hanging out with us today. So if you are someone that is new to the stream, I look forward to seeing you on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Grizzly, thank you for cheering. And I want to thank our moderator, me. Okay. These wonderful people who click the follow button, you are amazing. Thank you for deciding to join our community, and I think that is probably the best compliment I can get, is someone following our stream, because that lets me know that you want to see it in the future. So, Lil Six, thank you as well. And House Bazook, thank you for resubscribing to the stream. I love having all of you in the community. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, the rest of it at least, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday or Tuesday. So enjoy. If the weather's nice where you are, hopefully you can get out and see some of it. But regardless, happy coding, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye.